Hi guys, welcome to Science Synthesis. Today we'll be handling the science of buoyancy, aka floating eggs in water. Sit tight, let's enjoy this together. Thank you.
Okay, guys, let's do this. So we have the eggs that we need for the experiment. We have our glass cup. We'll have our table salt and then the spoon, which we're going to use. And then we'll have our bowl containing water inside of it. Okay, so let's do this now. So first thing, let's pour our water inside here. Um, be careful. Okay, I think this is okay. And let's maintain the same size. Great, great. So let's add the salt into it. Okay. Just add as much salt as possible so you can see the experiment proper. Provided you have salt. All right. Um, let's stir so that we'll obtain a homogeneous mixture. Okay. Let's add the last one. I think this is fine now. Okay. This is fine. So let's add the egg inside. So yeah, guys. So I'll add the first egg inside this very salty water, and let's see what will happen. So that's the egg now floating. So let's talk out for the fresh water. Let's see what will happen. So we got the experiment done. All right, guys, don't panic. Stay with me. I will tell you the very reason why this happened. I will give you the sciences, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Welcome back guys. Now we've seen the floating egg experiment. So let's see the science behind this. Sit tight.
So let's start with the salt water. So for the salt water, when we added salt to this very water, what happens is that we're increasing the mass of the water. And density is equal to mass over volume, which implies that density is directly proportional to mass. So as you're increasing the mass of a substance, you are in turn increasing the density of the liquid. Hence, the water is now denser than the egg and the egg will float. Hence, the egg is less dense. So the less dense object will float and the denser will be at the bottom. So that's what happened in this very scenario. So, but for this guy, we didn't add anything. One more thing before I forget this. The volume of this guy is constant volume, but we are increasing the mass. So that's why the relationship is possible. Since the volume is constant, we are increasing the mass alone. So we'll link it with that very relationship, density equal mass over volume. Thank you. So for this very guy, you didn't do anything to it. Sorry about that. So there is no increase in mass, and then the egg is denser than the liquid and it will sink. Now, wait a minute. This is the full gist. Whenever an object enters water, it pushes up some amount of water so as to create room for itself. So once this guy entered inside this very place, it displays some amount of water to create room where it will stay. The same thing applicable to the salt water. And this amount of water it pushes up is equal to its own what? Volume. Okay? And this is what we regard as what? Displacement. So hence, any object that enters water must displace a particular amount of water. And the volume of this water it displaced is equal to its own what? Volume. Now, the full gist you need to hear. There are two forces acting on these very stuffs. That is the force of gravity, that's the downward force, and also the buoyancy force, which is also called the upward force. Now, the gravity now, which is downward force, the object is simply the measure of the weight of this object. That is the force of gravity now. Simply the weight of this very object. Now, the buoyancy force is that very what? Upward force acting on the object. And this very force is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced. Remember I said, once an object enters water, it must displace an amount of liquid. So that buoyancy force is simply the weight of the liquid that is what? Displaced. So every object that enters water must displace some amount of liquid. Now, the entire gist that you need to know. Interesting. The amount of, that's if the weight of the liquid displaced is equal to the weight of that same object, what will happen is that the buoyancy force will be equal to the gravity. Remember, what is buoyancy? Buoyancy is simply the weight of fluid displaced. So if the weight of fluid displaced is equal to the weight of the object, which is the gravity, the object will do what? Will float. And that's what we'll have here. So the buoyancy force is equal to what? The gravity. That's the weight of the object. And that's why we'll have this guy floating. Now, but in this case, if the weight of the liquid displaced is less than the weight of this object, what will happen is that the buoyancy force will be less than the gravity, which is the what? The measure of the object's weight. The object will sink. So, on a general note, this is simply your physics, and this is the application of what? Flotation and buoyancy in physics. This is simple. That is the application. Again, this is the reason why you see objects float in oceans and seawater, because your seawater contains some amount of salt, even that.
Alright guys, why not like this video? Turn on your subscription button so you can get notifications when we post new videos. Thank you.